Sometimes buying drill bits can be a bit daunting. Now, Diablo claims that's not the case anymore. What we have here is the Metal Demon from Diablo, specifically the Metal Demon drill bit. They also included a nice little package with some other drill bits inside there. But we're going to see, does the Diablo Metal Demon really live up to what they're claiming? Let's get started. Well, Diablo definitely knows a thing or two about cutting and drilling in metal, and they have sent us the ultimate metal drill bit. We shall see about that anyway. So yeah, nice packaging there, Diablo. So it looks like they sent us a standard cobalt bit, a titanium bit, and a black oxide bit, and they're bragging about that this is the only 3-in-1 bit solution that will be cheap enough, quick enough, easy enough to drill into your typical, sheet metal, thin metal, even into woods and plastics. But also, my understanding, the heat treating and coating on this is going to allow this to act like a cobalt bit as well, and to be able to drill as fast and last, they're saying, I think up to 30 times longer or something than, I'm assuming, than your typical bit. Anyway, so pretty easy to tell that, right? So we will actually drill some holes and see what we think about that. Let's get started. So we've got some typical angle iron. I think that's probably 1/8 inch thick. And then we've got some stainless steel here as well. But really, we're going to get to some thick steel to actually do some testing on it. But we're going to test on these couple of things first with just a couple of cuts or a couple of drills. And then we'll jump up to this thick steel to see really what kind of durability we're going to get out of this. So in addition to having the heat treating that obviously you can see on the bit itself with that bluing effect, and the coating that is on this that's supposed to allow this to not only last longer but also cut better, it also has 3 flats here on the shank to be able to more easily bite into your chuck, even when you have a cheap chuck, and that will hopefully keep that from spinning out and actually creating those burrs on the shanks of your drill bits. Now, machinists are probably going to be a little ticked at that because they're used to taking their time to make sure that their chucks bite into the drill bits. But for those of us that use mostly probably cordless tools, this will be easier to do that. You just got to be more careful that the jaws of your chuck are actually biting into that shank. Now first, I'm just going to throw a regular black oxide bit in here, and we'll run this on speed 2, and obviously not hammer drill mode, but I'm going to lock it out in drill mode. And for reference here, we'll go ahead 320 millimeters or 126 thousandths. So yeah, right at an 1/8 inch, like I was saying. So 125 thousandths would be an 1/8 inch. So we're dealing with 1/8 inch angle iron. I forgot what gauge that is, but anyway, so I've got just a regular black oxide tip on here, and we'll drill a hole, see how long it takes, and then we'll throw in maybe the cobalt, and then throw in the Diablo. And we'll go ahead and use a little whack for each of these. Here we go. Okay, that's not even fair. That's not even starting to bite. Okay, I don't know if they just intentionally grabbed a cheap and dull drill bit. It looked brand new, but anyway, that doesn't work. Now we'll switch to the titanium. Let's finish up that hole. Okay, let's do a brand new hole for it. Some more lube on there. Sorry on hitting the camera there. Okay, that's cutting pretty good. We'll go to the cobalt. Yeah, the cobalt cuts really well as well. Sorry about hitting that camera. So yeah, that thinner 1/8 inch steel, no match for that titanium or the cobalt. And now let's switch to the, and this again, I like the flats, but you do have to be careful to make sure that your jaws are biting on those flats. And by the way, also, this has a 130-degree split point design on it, so should start holes very easily and not want to walk or wander on you. And I'll be fair here, give it a little lube. Yeah, so cutting feels like as fast as that cobalt, and I'll do it where I don't have a dimple there. Just make sure it doesn't wander. Yeah. So it's, huh. I think I've already burned up the bit. Yeah, it stopped cutting. All right, we moved on to the thicker steel. So yeah, 395 thousandths or 10 millimeter thickness. So not quite a 1/2 inch, but definitely past 3/8 of an inch thick. I've still got the cobalt drill bit on here. So I've slowed it down a little bit because we are drilling through thicker metal. And let's see if the Diablo comes back to life here. Hey, let us know in the comments why you think this thing just kind of stopped cutting on that angle iron. Okay, well, I am pleasantly surprised that this drill bit is working again. So maybe I had a little burr on it. I did try to clean it up with my fingernail. I did not put a file to it or anything else or anything sanding. I just kind of picked at it, cleaned the drill bit off. And so maybe that's what the issue was. So we're back to cutting. Cutting very well. All right, so let's do this. Let's time drilling 3 holes with the Diablo, and then we'll switch to the cobalt and see what we get, see if there's any time difference or if it's the same. I will start this, and then maybe at the 10-second mark, I'll start. They look like about 14 seconds. So it looks like right at a minute, so less 10 seconds, so about 50 seconds to drill 3 holes, even though that first one didn't take that long, but me transitioning, finding the center point. So roughly 50 seconds. Switch this out. By the way, the bit itself is not that hot. I'm not going to touch the end, but as far as the shank, it's not that hot. So lube it once, and then I'm not going to touch it again as far as lube goes. Again, we'll start at the 10-second mark. So it looks like about a second faster on the Cobalt bit. But as we'll talk about here in a few minutes, this Cobalt bit is much more expensive than that Diablo bit. So let's try the titanium bit. However, titanium bits, while I like them, they work fine as long as the coating's on them, but then the coating seems to wear off, especially when you're drilling thicker steel. So again, let's do the same. While the titanium bit did better than the other two. However, as I mentioned, and by the way, you can see this shank, I tightened it rather tight, but still spun inside the drill, which that happened a couple of times. But it did not happen with the Diablo, with the shanks, or with the flats on all the shanks. Okay, we're going to do one more test. We're going to run at wide open speed in speed 2. We're going to run 3 holes with the titanium, 3 holes with the Cobalt, and 3 holes with the Diablo Metal Demon, and see how fast they go. And we're going to make sure we're wide open. We'll start at the 10-second mark. Okay, that was right at 37 seconds, so less 10, that's 27 seconds. Pretty good for 3 holes. Again, that's wide open on the titanium. Ooh, that one's warm. Gonna go to the Cobalt. Again, we'll start at the 10-second mark. Okay, look like the 39-second mark, which would be 29 seconds, which is slower than the titanium. So I guess the titanium aids in a little speed, or they're roughly about the same until that titanium coating wears off. Let's go back to the Metal Demon from Diablo. We're going to start right here and work 3 holes that way. And again, we'll start at the 10-second mark. Well, that was definitely the fastest by far by a couple of seconds. So what do we have? 26 seconds, 27 seconds, and 29 seconds. So we're talking seconds between 3 holes. I don't think you're going to be getting paid any more efficiency, if you will, by selecting any of these. But the idea is the cobalt's going to be a much more expensive bit. The titanium is a cheaper bit probably, but even these, it is going to wear out. Now, it didn't wear out over the 10 holes we drilled, but it will wear out. I think we've all used titanium bits. They're great while they last, but they will wear out. The coating on the Metal Demon, how long is it going to last? Who knows? Time will tell with that. Maybe we'll drill some more holes, see if it still lasts. But as far as speed, it's going to be just as fast as a good sharp titanium bit, and just as fast or a little faster than the cobalt bit. I would recommend keeping lube on these, especially when you're drilling thick metal. Every time you drill a hole, doesn't take long. Take a little wax, put the tip in it, and then you keep that nice and clean and cool. What it's doing is dissipating a lot of that heat, even though that coating does that as well. Any lube is going to do the same. It's going to provide an optimal cutting surface and keep the heat away from that surface. So anyway, highly recommend using some sort of lube, drilling and tapping lube when you're drilling, especially in thick steel. So here's the real deal on this. As you saw, when we were using this just on some angle iron, it just acted like it didn't want to drill, and it just stopped cutting, which we thought it either burned up or it really just kind of, rolled the tip over or something. Well, literally, I did not touch it to a grinder, to a piece of sandpaper, anything. I just picked at it with my finger. Much like many times when you're drilling in aluminum, sometimes you can get a burr on there, and then it just will not let that leading edge cut. But I really didn't feel anything, but I just kind of picked it clean from anything that was on there. And then we went to the thicker steel, and it just started cutting again. So I was thankful that we actually got this going again. And it cut absolutely well. It cut just as well as the titanium and the cobalt. As you saw, they were within a couple of seconds of each other after cutting three holes. So really, that could be determined by maybe I put a little pressure than others. I tried to keep it all the same. We could have gone over to do a drill press, but could have been the same thing. I could have applied more pressure on one than the other, but I think you could say they operate rather equally when they're all new bits. Now, I know the titanium bits are going to wear out. That's just going to be the case. I don't know about this one. I drilled a bunch more holes after we, quote, tested, and it still cut just as quick on all those holes. So maybe it will last longer than the titanium bits. Also, I made a comment like that these are 10 times cheaper than cobalt. That's really not the case. Talking about pricing, you can get a 15-piece set of these, of the Metal Demons, for somewhere around 35 to 40 bucks for a 15-piece version. Now, if you're looking at regular titanium bits, usually those are somewhere in the $25 to $35 range. So you could arguably get these as cheap as titanium bits. Then you're way ahead of the titanium with these. Now, also on the cobalts, when I mentioned that it may be, 10 times the price, that's just not the case anymore. Now, I will say you can buy cheap cobalt bits and you can buy real cobalt bits. And a set of real cobalt bits for, say, a full index of 29 pieces, you're going to pay in that $300 range. Well, a 29 piece of these looks like they're roughly around 130 bucks. So it looks like your price would be at least double for a good set of cobalt bits. And by the way, don't just buy cobalt bits because they say it on the package. I'm telling you, there is a difference. You can ask machinists when you look at brand names in cobalt bits. So when you do spend the money on a set of cobalts, make sure you do some research and know that you're buying good stuff. and good quality brands you'll kind of know as well. But anyway, so back to the Metal Demon. As far as durability, who knows? I don't know how many holes we drilled here. We drilled a lot, and it was still cutting just as well. So it is going to hang in there and make a lot of cuts. And again, we're cutting through or drilling through 3/8 thick steel. Actually, it's a little thicker than 3/8 inch. 3/8 inch would be 0.375, and I think this was more right at 0.40. So you're definitely drilling some thick steel. Most of the time, you're probably going to be less than that. Anyway, so pricing on these, again, are going to run somewhere around that $40 range for a 15-piece index of these. And then when you step up to the larger index of 29, then it's going to come in a kind of big round tube with a lid on it. And it looks like somewhere around that $130 range on those. So check them out. We'll have a link in the description. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But let us know in the comments why. Have a great day and keep smiling.